Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Street Savvy, the podcast, and I'm Jay Works, your host. We got a lot of things to get to with a short time tonight. I hope you guys had a blessed day and stayed warm out this crazy weather we getting up here in the nor'easter. Folks, they said the weather is not getting any better. In the next several days, it's going to be chilling weather, wind fill factor in the zeros. Folks, stay warm when you go out there. Make sure you start your cars up at least 15 to 30 minutes. Make sure you're running your water half an hour at night before you go to bed and half an hour in the morning before you go out those doors. Let that water run for your pipes won't bust and for your heat will stay running in your car. And folks, listen, bundle up. Thermal, t-shirts, hoodies, turtlenecks, scarves, hats, full-length jackets if you got it. Whatever it is, just double down, folks. It's too cold out there. We want everybody to be safe in this weather. But, folks, in worldwide news, America's in an uproar. And I mean in an uproar. On the political stage, Donald Trump and some of the Republicans are just ramping up, folks. They is doing everything they can to keep things that they want up in power and keep anybody else below them under power. Folks, I've been listening and learning the last several weeks. Allegedly, Donald J. Trump is on a mission. He's cut several thousand of federal working jobs, and a lot of the factors in the federal bill factors, even in the healthcare factors, he is doing work. He is working. He said he's cutting down the fat. And now they're looking at SSI. Him and his cohort, whatever you want to call him, they working. And they looking into cutting the fat off Social Security and SSI. Elon Musk said he's been studying for weeks and months of the SSI bill, paying out extra amount of dollars. It's up in the trillions of dead people or people who's not alive who's still receiving checks and benefits, which I don't know how that can happen, but anything is possible. Folks, I don't know what these folks got planned, but on the other half of that, a lot of you folks voted these guys in, and look what's happened. Hoping the Supreme Court stand up on a lot of these judgments and put a halt to it. It's just danger. It's just danger, folks. Take care of your family. Stay on your job. Listen and learn. Make sure you got a candidate in sight. Study him and study him and study him and vote for him. In other news, sports. Hockey had a big grand event over the weekend. The National Hockey League played all the American players against the national players. Canadian against the Americans. However you want to call it. Listen, the frozen pond is a sport that's been around America for years. It's not an American sport. It's across the global sport. And they had a big spectacle in Boston, Massachusetts at the old Boston the Fleet Center, old Fleet Center. Folks, it was an extravaganza to see over 15 million people viewed in. So let me tell you why I'm speaking on this. Because the past weekend as well, the NBA had their All-Star game. And some folks saying it was disaster. And me, I fumbled. I came on last week and said, Atlanta, excuse me, I apologize. It was out in San Francisco. Folks, NBA need to get it together. You have older players who was great in the league, they didn't even come out to watch. And some folks are saying, hey, a lot of the leaders, the LeBron James, the Stephen Currys, this guy named, the guy played for Milwaukee. They said, hey, a lot of these stars are not stepping up. And they blame LeBron, which I beg to differ. I really beg to differ. I think it shoulders on a lot of greats, because when we was coming up, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Dominique Wilkins, the Wilkins brothers, You name it. Stepped up, slam dunk contest, three-point contest, you name it. They was there. They were trying to beat each other's heads off. The East against the West. Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan. A lot of those guys was trying to beat Magic Johnson, Akeem Olajuwon, Kareem and those guys, James Worthy. But now, these guys are best friends. And they're saying LeBron tanked the league. LeBron too friendly. Too big three. He's too much of a big three. And I don't like it. I don't like the stain. And I think it's hurting the league brand. Now, a lot of folks are saying, hockey did it. Why don't the United States do it? Not the United States, the NBA. Why don't the NBA do it? Why don't the NBA put their great players against every great player in the world? The NBA against everybody. Well, they do it for an all-star spectacle. I think that'd be nice. I think the NBA would numbers would go up. I think the ratings would go off the roof. But lately, the all-star game ratings ain't been great. Has not been great. Has not been great. So you lead the Jason Tatums of the world. You know, those new guys, Stephen Curry's. Those guys are soft-talking guys. And Green, he ain't going to do it. You know? It's just not, I don't think there's a guy in the league who's bigger than LeBron can be this spokesperson, can be that guy, but LeBron. It's just something has to happen. The league is getting boring, folks. The league is getting boring. NBA is getting boring. They're saying the WNBA ratings next year is going to be bigger than the NBA ratings. It's up to see. In other news, folks, here in upstate New York, a lot of folks been talking about it for weeks and months to come. A lot of the violence in New York State correction facilities. More than not, a few have been murdered in New York State correctional officers' hands. Families been complaining, sending letters to the board, can't visit, don't know until days and weeks and months later. It was just recently shown a man got brutally killed, allegedly, by some correction officers. A nurse was there. Someone taped it without any vocal, but someone taped it. And they brutally beat this man who was handcuffed. They beat the living daylights. He got killed. And the autopsy revealed is a homicide. And some folks are mad and said, why is it not as steadfast? These guys and folks are going to jail. Well, I got faith in Patricia James, the state attorney general in New York. I think she's going to put the work in. But let me say this, folks. Yeah, there's a lot of deaths of hands on correction officers, allegedly. But there's a lot of great ones who have worked their whole career. Families, brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins, nephews, and nieces, done passed the torch down to work as a correction officer. It's a great job, but it's a dangerous whereabout and a dangerous place to be in certain these facilities. So just recently, in the last several days, folks, New York State, 42 of New York State facilities has been on strike. The workers are furious, including the union rep as well. The union rep is 10 toes down saying, listen, it's a ruling that was laid down 3 years ago. It's called the Hope Rule. And the rule puts a stain on a lot of correction officers. What can they do? What can they not do in these facilities? And it's not helpful for the workplace. It's not feasible for anybody who wants to go in there and make a living. Some are saying allegedly they work 3 or 4 shifts of 24 hours or better. 3 or 4 shifts, 2 shifts. That's 48 hours in 2 days. That's crazy. Some people saying the inmates are running the asylum. Now, a couple weeks ago, in one of the upstate New York jails, it started slow, they saying. They said in Collins Correctional Facility, an inmate was trying to do his regular dealings, quote unquote, and the correction officers tried to stop him, and the place got crazy. Ended up being several hours of them getting the facility back together from the inmates. And then it went on to Elmira. They got tired. They have got tired. The correction officers got tired of things they can't handle. These worsened facilities for the inmates and for the correction officers. And some folks are saying, hey, it's more mental than physical. Yeah, it's working on my body, but it's more mental. I can't go home right. I'm vaguely doing time in these prisons, and I'm supposed to be getting paid for it. And they're saying it's not safe. Folks, I'm pretty sure a lot of you folks out there that listens to this podcast or any other podcast have someone in jail who's been incarcerated, who can't speak for themselves. I'm one of those guys who I've been entertaining with CCA for the last few years. I'm going up to the Capitol in Albany and speaking for people who can't be spoke for behind those walls. And I tell you, there's been a lot of negatives. There's no positives. There's no positives. And you would say they do the crime. Yes, they got to do the time. Yes, I'm for that. But the system is not for the black and brown community. The system is not pegged for the black and brown community. A lot of folks are saying, and they've been saying it for hundreds of years. The crime don't fit the time. The information don't fit the docket number. And the bodies don't fit the count that leaves them jails. Now, I understand and I get it. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of things going on in them jails. Allegedly. But the criminal activities, they saying is both ways. Allegedly, the correction officers and the inmates. But let me say this, folks. As a black and brown man, as a father, as a husband, as someone who's employed to work at these facilities, who wants to be a correction officer at some point, it's kind of weary right now. To me, as a man, of all the reports of coming out of these facilities, and from all the families on both sides, people are losing their lives, losing their brothers and their sisters and their cousins and their husbands when they go behind the walls. Some have 8 days. Some get treated like animals. Some feel like they are animals. They got to fight back like an animal. Some feel like the inmates don't like them and there's a war. They got to fight to sleep. They got to fight to eat. They got to fight to use the restroom. They got to fight to stay in line. And they got to fight to behave. It's unhumane in a lot of these facilities. And guess what, folks? God works in mysterious ways. Now, you hear me talk this way. I've been hearing this for years. How the correctional facilities across the country do these inmates no justice. Treat them all like animals. In the 90s, a lot of federal inmates up in Texas, the Carolinas, I remember it was a case up in Texas, allegedly, I heard, that they were sicking the dogs on the inmates. Sicking dogs on them. As soon as they come up the bus, to lay down, to get down, to kneel down. It's been tough, folks. And now they're striking. God works in mysterious ways. He's working his wand. He's working his magic. You can't just hurt God's children. You can't just prey on God's children because they committed a crime, because they made a simple mistake, or they keep making repetitive mistakes. It becomes mental. It becomes agile. it becomes anguish. It becomes unhumane to do people the way they say it's being done behind those walls. And guess what, folks? Now the sheep is crying wolf. Because now the correctional facilities is not being ran right. People are running away from their jobs. People are willing to lose their job than to go work at their job. And right now, it's a law in New York State to strike in New York State facilities, to walk out, to leave the facilities. Is a crime and is a punishable law. And the Governor Hochul is trying to get Letitia James, the state attorney general, do some fast action. But folks, the Taylor law, they should have read that. They should have looked at it in fine print. Because that's the name of the law. Prevents you from walking away out of your job in a correctional facility. But let me tell you something, folks. The men and women who has walked out of those facilities, they look tired. They look fed up. They look older. They look middle class. They look all Caucasian descent. Every video from YouTube to the news channel, it's nothing but white folks complaining out there in them streets or in front of those jails, in front of Elmira, in front of Attica. Yes, in front of these state facilities, they have now, the governor have now employed the Army, state emergency in each jail because there's no worker. So now the military is in the jail. The military, folks, in 42 facilities, allegedly. And they saying, this is what they say. She's throwing an offer out there. She's saying, if all these striker workers, no matter what time today, by 12 o'clock tonight, come back to work, they will not be penalized. They will not lose reduction of salary or hours. She just wants them back to work by 12. I don't understand. Governor, I need you to really explain this a little more to me, personally, how that work. If these folks are complaining of these facilities not being safe, the inmates happily run an asylum, and it's not safe for the inmates, or for them to keep the inmates from rationing out from the good inmates, certain laws prevent them from doing that, which that means probably using a lot of offense against these inmates for not abiding the rules, for not paying attention, or for being disorderly. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you something, Governor. You got a problem on your hands. Because just to say, if these men and women go back to work, now you give these inmates a tool to say, hey, miss, hey, sir, hey, warden, you guys walked out because the facility is inhumane, unsafe for you guys. But what about us who get beat down and battered for not listening or paying attention like we are dogs or children? Nobody's supposed to get that brutality. That's the problem. And we all heard it. And all my life I done heard, don't go to jail. Don't go to jail. Jail ain't just about the population. Jail is about people you don't know, who don't know you, in different colors, kicking your behind. And people who don't like you, who look like you, kicking your behind. You'll get it from both ways. Seemed like, folks, that was the right suggestion that people told me in advice. Now it's truly happening. It's been happening. And folks, I think, my opinion, it's going to get worse. They need to repeal this law this Holton Law, they need to sit down with the union and make it a feasible rate, a feasible salary, and start changing some of the rules in these facilities for these inmates. Because not all inmates are animals. Not all inmates are killers. Not all inmates are dangerous. Not all inmates are monsters. They're human beings, and some made some mistakes that probably cost them their life. But remind you, a lot of these inmates was children, was teenagers when they made those mistakes. I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I made a mistake. I was around a lot of mistakes. And I got myself out of it because I wanted it. Making babies, working and paying child support. And I'm still in hell because I owe arrears. And I can't get real great federal jobs because when you owe type of money I owe, they don't trust you. Same thing the correction officers told me. So God works in a mysterious way, folks. And if you got a family member who's behind those walls, a family member you ain't heard from in weeks and days to come, you better ask somebody. You better be out there protesting. Like how these folks are striking, you need to strike a chord with them vocals and speak for the ones who can't be spoken for. And if you are a correction officer and you've been mistreated by your employer, now is the time to speak up, sir, ma'am. I'm no Dr. Phil, but people are hurting on both sides of the aisle. And just a matter of fact, sources tell me it's no visitors for none of these jails. It's no visiting. It's no visiting. And majority of these jails are 23-hour lockdown. They might be on lockdown. Allegedly. Who knows? And you talk to some of the guys who's out there, they saying the inmates are running these asylums, are running these jails. Who knows, allegedly. But folks, it's not getting better for us brown and black men and women. And for the Caucasian men and women who's out there, who's striking, God bless you. Get what you deserve. Never accept less. And that's from a union mind. I was raised in a union family, and I respect it. All facilities need to be feasible for anyone who works in them, anyone who lives in them. Trust indeed. Well, folks, that's my words for today. Hopefully some of you guys got some wisdom and knowledge, and pay attention to your loved ones behind that wall. They might be in a world of trouble. They might need you today. Not tomorrow, today. And if you are one of them folks on the front line doing correction work and you need more, strike for the man who ain't even working yet. Strike for the men and women who's just about to go to the academy. Pretty soon, we are short-handed in the corrections. But this don't look good for any man and woman who wants to work for the corrections of New York State. With this strike, 3 days, wall to wall, door to door, who wants to work around contention and attention like that? So God bless America, and keep checking me out. Street Savvy, the podcast. I'm Jay Works, the host, and it's for some of your information. God bless you. I love you, America.